Starlings murmurate overhead, washing their billowed circuit over a river that slithers out before me, an umbilical cord flowing from the mountain, pockmarked and dappled from rain, drowning in its flow, falling like a grief shroud of mist around the neck of these hills. I watch each little world as it cascades and spills towards the barren promise of concrete, where, deep beneath, the dirt sighs at how we funnel nature away from us, like we could ever muzzle it tame, knowing how all the wet that came before will only come back and pour once more. People have believed that after death, as your soul came to the depths thereafter, you were made to drink from a river. So the trauma of dying might wither and you could be reborn safe of its sadness. They thought it a kindness to unsaddle it from us. But freeing ourselves from the knowledge of what went before stirs in us fear of what comes after. Makes our lives eternal iterations, each rotation a variation on a theme, meaning all the pain we've seen before would only ever come back round to hurt once more. Over the years, though, it's as if these loops have been hammered out into a line, tempered and refined by notions of progress marching modernity into monoculture. We digress from discussion, democracy, diversity, and pray at the altar of hierarchy. In the pyramid scheme of society, we become individualized away from each other, into identities, running parallel down timelines as isolated partisan minds. We force competition to supersede collaboration, and armed with the cheat codes of consumerism, fill fraught our stocks with the time we've bought like we weren't living off the interest. Indifferent to the irony of how much a waste it all is, what if we could replace our idea of time with something that might lean more towards survival? Halfway between a wheel and a line, what if time could become a spiral? The regenerative circle meets the expansive line. We could trace along its spine, look for where we pushed against the curve, and if we were willing, observe what set the spiral spinning. See where we were brimming with adventure. Every time we stepped outside ourselves and felt compelled to excel beyond where the circles bend. What if the course of these spirals didn't have to end? Not cut off at the end of a life, but that each was complementary to the next. Could there be a kind of joined up, collective memory where we could think back beyond our bodies and become wise as the day we died? What if each step was of progress regained rather than a reduction of what remains? What if all of our living lived before could come back round to teach us once more? We could take this hastening along the plank and curl it into an inertia of the turning, an adjusted orbit, a recalculation of trajectory, an axial segue, a shift of degrees, because it feels like a retrograde to me, which, although we think of as a moving backwards, a reversal, an undoing, everything is still moving forward. It's time to find another point of view, to shift the paradigm and see things anew, to experience the land more as a living organism and find our place within its ecosystems, to balance on them our widening gyre before we retire under our impending weight. To reciprocate the motion of its cogs and gears. Is it too simple or elegant of a solution? Does the planet hold the momentum of our revolution? And this might sound somewhat idealist. I have by no means a complete list of actions and plans, just a notion, just a thought, just a vision of moving on from here with a little bit more wisdom. To realise the political power of personal decisions, that the force of many small suggestions is greater than that of any singular impression? Can we find our collective direction like those starlings flowing across the clear blue sky, and amplify our voices when we lead by example? The action of one affects the path of the next. See how it's the small steps that make the difference. Even admitting ignorance shines a light on where to look. Because in spite of our intelligence, we've strayed further from the elements than we might have planned. And as the land beneath us becomes shaky and unstable, fearing what's to come as only something painful is as useless as it is wasteful. It admits defeat, surrenders to the enemy. This self-fulfilling tragedy can surely be averted once we've asserted our place amongst the world and tempted the spiral to open and unfurl. Teasing the past to come looser and looser, we might find we can remember the future. Out from our amnesia, uncovering oracles in sepia and pull what's next from the mouth of history. The future might feel like a mystery, but it's also a yet unmade invention, found in the wilds of our unmapped potential, where we are challenged on what we think of as essential, where we shuffle the deck a bit more evenly, because it strikes me like this: if I'm looking into the past, who'll be looking at me in the future? How do I place myself on the right side of history, on the right side of my own heart? Tomorrow's bloom is today's planting, so let's get planning and mark this as a moment we start to pass the movement on, like heirlooms, like stories, like blood. Because whether it knocks down your door or thuds out from your chest, tomorrow and the days after, these are the days of aspiration, of hope for the future. A future that will be nothing more than a modern past, unless people care enough, like they've done before. Because until the work is finished, we can always and should do more.